Nigeria is actually the 6th largest producer of oil. But that is if they want to lie to you. Really, I think we are number 3 because Iraq hasn't had production of any significant measure in a while. For a while, Venezuela was problematic. Iran and Saudi Arabia was problematic. And the importance of our oil can be underscored by the fact that the next place where the US is going to have a mercantile army is, of course, the West African region. They are planning an African command of the US Army. Apparently, they claim that they want to help us protect the ungoverned waters of Africa. What a greater insult could that be? But, you know, we'll come back to that. The point that I want to make is to tell this in a very, very simple story. And it's to tell you that where I come from, because of, you know, activities of oil drilling, has been polluted and destroyed over the years. When I say over the years, we're talking about since 1959, at least that people know. But when we tell the story about the devastation and the destruction of the environment in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, I try to let people know that it happened during my lifetime. You know, some of it is something that you can almost call yesterday. I'm 36 years old now, and as of 1970s when I went to primary school, 80s when I went to high school, and eventually late 80s and 90s when I went to the university in Nigeria. A lot of these things I'm going to tell you about are still, are still very present. But the simple way to put it to you is that I grew up in a very polygamous family. I have 16 brothers and sisters combined together, and don't ask me if I remember all their names. And what this tells you is that we have to struggle for everything. You know, my father has 3 wives. So my father is a middle-class person as far as the Nigerian society was concerned. He was a teacher. But being a teacher required that he moves from place to place every semester. They would transfer him from school to school. He was a primary school teacher, and he took pride in it. You know, so 2 of his kids, myself being the first and my half-brother, had to follow him everywhere. It is part of life training for us in Africa to just, if you are male, you know, a fairly chauvinistic society, you follow your dad everywhere, and the females follow their mom everywhere. So we would follow my dad, and I began to see when I was very young the effect of oil destruction on the environment. I was born beside a lake in Nigeria. It's a lake, I don't know how to tell you geographically the size of it, but it was a beautiful lake. It was not only a beautiful lake, it was freshwater lake. You know, you could scoop the water when I was born and when I was younger and just drink right away. You know, it was nice. And when we left school, we would just jump into the lake as a way of passing time. But as I grew older, this pollution began to migrate towards outside of northern part of Ondo State, northern part of the Niger Delta. It started from the swamps close to the Atlantic Ocean. So when we followed my dad around, this time not in a car and not in any fancy thing, we didn't even have an engine. We only have a dugout canoe. And my dad would paddle this canoe with all of us in it, lantern and lamps and nets, and it then gone. This is a teacher. All night, sometimes for 6 hours, sometimes 12 hours, would be in Niger Delta region trying to get to his school station. And when we followed my dad, we just love to ask questions as little kids. You know, it's the only thing we did because we have little paddles, but they are not actually effective. So we keep busy by asking questions. Sometimes we ask questions out of curiosity, sometimes out of fear. When we are afraid, we just keep ourselves busy by asking questions. And one of the things I noticed was that if my dad paddled this canoe towards, you know, the Atlantic Ocean, you would discover changes as you move towards the Atlantic Ocean of different ecological elements. This time around, I paid more attention to the water body. So you live at a village, it has freshwater lake, it's fairly clean, and you know, you do some 1 hour into the south, you know, it turns into a different color that you can say, well, it's milky. and you do another 2 hours, it looks like tea. And when you get very close to the Atlantic Ocean, it's just like sludge, you know. And we would just question my dad to death about, you know, why is this happening? Because we get to a point where my dad says, don't put your hand inside water, you know. He will stop you from doing that. And I would say, Daddy, why not? You know, we've been doing that all our way here. And part of what I noticed growing up in Nigeria is that not only are these problems prevalent, but there has been some kind of educational conspiracy, you know. People of my dad's generation had been trained or maybe conditioned not to actually tell the truth to their kids about the problem happening in the environment. Maybe it's also cultural too, that it's of Yoruba culture to speak in parables and not really say directly what the problem